Hi and welcome to another Redline review. I'm Sabrin and this is something that I have been looking forward to for a while now. A huge shout out to Fractal Design, who we were fortunate enough to meet at Computex 2018, and they were very nice enough to send us a couple of cases for review. The second review will be coming up shortly, and this is going to be the review of the Fractal Design Define R6. Alright, so what we have here is a case that I won't lie, I have not seen before firsthand. It is one of the nicest workstation slash minimalist enthusiast cases I have probably ever seen. I've been a huge fan of Fractal Design, and as you know, at Redline we haven't exactly been able to stock Fractal Design products for various reasons, and that may all change shortly, but for now they have been nice enough to send us the Define R6, which is one of their flagship cases, one of the latest cases to come out from their company, and this is the tempered glass blackout version of the case. Now, I can't help but fanboy a bit at this case, considering it has literally every feature that someone like me would like, and I am somebody who generally kind of steers away from bling and lighting, and I like the minimalist style. I've always loved Corsair's Obsidian series cases, and I feel like Fractal has really brought the game and kind of outdid Corsair in this particular scenario, and let me just tell you why by outlining a few of the main features. So the Define R6, as you can see, is a mid-tower case, so it's not really a full tower. They do have a Define XL that fills that gap. But this pretty much has everything and the kitchen sink in terms of features thrown at it. So starting at the front, this is one of the very few cases nowadays that comes with tempered glass that also happens to have an optical driveway. So this thing swings over, and this latching mechanism can actually be unlatched and mounted on either side, and it closes very satisfyingly and very silently, I might add, because it has sound dampening on all sides, and this is one of those little features that Fractal has actually kind of, paid attention to, something that usually many case manufacturers don't pay attention. It's the little things. And it's those little things in the finish of this case that really make it stand out from the rest and really give you that premium look and feel, as well as when you're actually touching the case, literally every square inch of it is made with nothing but high quality materials. We'll get to that shortly. So as you can see from the front, it's super simple, and one of the first things you might actually notice is that it doesn't have any branding, and that is one thing I have to give props to Fractal for, because they are like, look, when you look at this, you're going to immediately know that it is a Fractal Design Define. One of the nice things about this is that it also has sound dampening foam as well as dust filters on the front as well. So you've got removable dust filters. Wherever there are dust filters, there's a huge one at the bottom, you've got another one at the front, and we have another one at the top. So this is actually a case that, when you really think about it, is probably perfect for Sri Lanka, because if you have ever owned a case with a lot of airflow, or even a remotely mid to high-end case, you would notice that your system draws in a lot of dust. Because one thing that we've noticed at Redline is that very few cases come with good dust filtering, and Sri Lanka has its fair share of problems. We are, even in our town areas where we live in a really, really dusty environment, it doesn't matter if you're behind closed doors, an air conditioner doesn't seem to fix the problem most of the time, so it's very dusty. And coupled with that, we have problems with rust and oxidation, which also can be minimized if you have good dust filtering. So if you have high-end components, you're going to want to protect it using good dust filters. Considering we are in Sri Lanka, this actually has probably the most impressive dust filtering I've ever seen in a case, and that's saying a lot. And they also have sound dampening on pretty much every panel that matters. We've got sound dampening on the sides, we've got sound dampening on the front. So when you have a high-end build in here, and even with a liquid-cooled an AIO, or even a high-end CPU air cooler with a high-end graphics card going in and running at full speed, you're going to probably not hear much, probably a light hum, considering that the case is really heavily built, and it's really built to kind of keep that sound level to a minimum. So if you're somebody who really appreciates a quiet workspace, this is definitely your case. The R6 is actually conveniently named in that they've had Define R cases, I believe, ranging all the way back from the original R1. And they essentially retrade it every few years, so that, improving on the features, keeping up with the times. I believe the R5 didn't come with the tempered glass version, and now we do. The default Define, actually, R6 does come with a nice two-tone color set, which is black on the outside, with some of the accessories like the IO shield, or rather the expansion slots at the back, as well as the fans coming in white. But this particular one is actually the blackout edition, and everything is just black. And it's really nice. It's really minimalistic. At the top, we've got Good I/O, I would say. We've got 4 USB ports, 2 USB 2, 2 USB 3. We've got a headphone and microphone jack, and we've got a power button. So keeping a little minimalistic there. We have essentially two 140mm fans, which are essentially covered here due to this very nice looking grill, which again I'm going to say I'm a huge fan of, because it essentially makes the case give it a little bit of character without really taking away too much from it. But beneath this, we actually have two 140mm fans. We've got another big 140mm fan at the back, and that's one of the first things I'm going to start off with. Like in terms of cooling, the standard case fan size nowadays is about 120mm. So 140 is going to give you that much more oomph, that much more air intake, exhaust. It's going to, and I feel like they've balanced it really well, which you'll see from the interior shots of the case. At the top, we actually have a solid panel here, which is for a lot of you might be thinking, okay, where are you going to put the red in case if not at the front? Well, they actually have a nice sturdy little button at the back here that you just press and it pops right out. Really nice. Like I said, it's the little things that really make this case stand out. And what we have here is dust filtering, which you're going to find is going to be like an underlying theme of this case. We've got dust filtering on practically every surface that is an intake, or in some cases even an exhaust. Now this particular thing can actually be taken apart, which is a little difficult right now, so I can't really show this to you. We'll show this to you in a bit. So it's got a dust filter here. It's got a nice grill design that essentially can be mounted at the top all by itself, removing this solid panel. So in case you want to mount a rad at the top exhausting air, you can actually remove this solid panel and then just put that little grill design at the top so that it can actually exhaust air without any hindrance. I'm going to just put this right back. So one of the nicest things about this case is how simple and clean, like I said, the look is, and to add to that, they've got this huge tempered glass side panel, which I have to admit is kind of a fad in 2017, 2018. We see a lot of cases with it, and Fractal design, like I said, it's an optional case. Not all Define R6s have to have that. You can opt for it without it in case you want, but this blackout edition does come with a tempered glass, which is very nice. I am a fan of tempered glass when it's done right. One thing I notice about tempered glass that sometimes ruins the look of cases is that they generally tend to have the mounting screws on the glass itself, just due to the nature of tempered glass, that you're not able to put it on like an open and closable window. But what Fractal have done is they've gone that extra mile and actually made a frame for the window so that you can fit the frame onto the chassis itself and then latch it on only using the screws at the back like you would a regular window, which I think is a very nice touch. And when you look at it from the side, it gives you a really clean, unadulterated look into the case. Another really nice thing about this case, which I love, is the fact that they've actually gone the trouble of covering the hard drive bays with a really nice cage cover. Very minimalist Fractal design branding on the bottom, and essentially we have the optical drive bay at the top, and right below that we have multiple hard drive bays, and these bays, amazingly enough, can also be removed. So this entire thing is modular in the sense that this entire hard drive cage as well as optical drive cage, with a little bit of tinkering and a screwdriver, can be removed, and you can essentially open up the insides to the more familiar layout that most people nowadays are used to, in case you don't need an optical drive bay and you don't need more than maybe a couple of hard drive bays, because those can be mounted at the back, which we will also get to shortly. So like I was saying, the hard drive cage cover really allows you to block out any unsightly cables or the actual hard drives that are going in there, so that even if you have it stacked to the brim with 3.5-inch hard drives, you wouldn't be able to see it, which I think is a very nice touch. They've also got stuff that is pretty standard on high-end cases, but still nonetheless nice to see that it's done well. They've got a false floor, which is also perforated, which is also a good thing and something you don't see on all cases. So the perforation is essentially, it allows the heat output from the power supply chamber to maybe spill into the top compartment or vice versa. So a little bit of airflow helps with the cooling a bit sometimes, and it doesn't matter whether you mount your power supply either way. That's something to keep in mind. And another thing that at the back you would notice is that this also allows for a vertical installation of graphics cards, which is also a kind of a 2017-2018 trend. Unfortunately, the bracket, or rather the mounting mechanism for that, is sold separately. $40 last time I checked. But with that, you can essentially have it just slotted onto the false floor, and you just have the I/O back here, and then you just mount it as you would normally, and you would have a vertically mounted graphics card. Pretty nice, and I see why they did it, because it's a tempered glass case. Sometimes you want to showcase your hardware. Cooling wise, not always the best, because it kind of goes against the airflow of the case. But if that's something that you want and you don't care too much about your cooling, something that you can do if you want. The case also has a bunch of other extra features, which is, like I said again, standard for a high-end case in 2018. You've got a CPU cutout. in case you want to mount your cooler onto the back of your motherboard without actually having to remove your motherboard, which is always nice, but is pretty much on every case. Lots of routing holes for cables. Cable management is excellent on this. We're going to show you a finished build in a bit, and you're going to see how clean and nice and how easy it was to build in that. This case takes up to full-size ATX motherboards, maybe slightly longer EATX boards with a little bit of a tight squeeze, but it's built mainly for boards up to full ATX, nothing larger really, which is not bad considering it's a mid-tower case. No one's really going to build an EATX or XLATX build inside this, probably not the best thing to do. Now, where things get a little interesting is that you also have plenty of space at the top. Like I told you before, you can pop this right open with this button right here. And when this comes off, you have ample space here to go all the way up to 360 millimeters of rad space here. And the beauty of that is that it's just not what 3 120s. You can also expand that all the way up to 3 140 millimeter rad. So as you know, some of the newer coolers that we have even here at Redline, like the Corsair H115, are actually 140 millimeter fan radiators, and they're quite large, and not all cases do support that. Something to keep in mind in case you want the latest H115 or 360 rad from Corsair even is the H150 Pro RGB, which is also something that we stock. Huge rad, again not compatible on all cases. Something to keep in mind when you're going to put that into this case, look, it is compatible. The front hard drive cages kind of tend to knock 360 rads at the moment. There's not enough clearance. But what you can do is, if you're a real liquid cooling enthusiast and you need that 360 millimeter rad, you can remove, like I said, the hard drive cages, pop it out, and then get that bad boy going in here. Fits perfectly, no problem whatsoever. Alternatively, if you love the hard drive cage the way it is, which I personally love because I love that you can put so many hard drives in it, you can also mount the rad at the front, and then you can realign the fans at the top from the front. So that's something you can play around with. Plenty of space on the inside. If you want to keep the hard drive cage, you can also mount up to 280 millimeter rads at the top, which is pretty damn amazing nowadays, considering that only very few full tower cases are able to do that. Most mid towers can't. So this can amply take 280 millimeter rad coolers, no problem whatsoever. The overall aesthetic is something, like I said, it's love it or hate it, in that some people really don't like the simple look of cases. Most manufacturers have a line of cases that are very elegant and minimalistic, at least the more premium ones. The thing about Fractal Design is that pretty much their entire lineup is that. We have a review for their Meshify case coming later on, which is slightly different but more of the same, very simple, very elegant, because essentially a clean minimalist case allows you to really highlight your build. See, when you have RGB fans, this is just purely our opinion, my opinion, that if you have RGB fans and all of these lights, it really detracts from the quality of the case. So when you have something that is this well built, and at the same time it's also very clean, very minimalist, very elegant, it has all of the nice elements of a showy case, like the tempered glass side window, but it doesn't do too much with the rest of the case. It allows you to really showcase your build. So when you have like a really nice clean build going on inside it with the cable management, cable management's amazing on this. So obviously you're not going to see a lot of cables. The build really shines through, and this is something that we at Redline love doing, that when we have a build, we really love to showcase the actual hardware inside as opposed to the case itself. But nonetheless, the case itself, if you're somebody who loves high quality materials and you're an enthusiast and you've always been a fan of, say, I don't know, Antec's Performance 1 series, Corsair's Obsidian series, Cooler Master Silencio series, and something that's aiming more towards the more restrained design segment, I would say you would love the Define. This is definitely, I've been around for a while. I've seen quite a few cases. We've built machines in quite a few of these. The Define R6 might be one of the nicest cases I have ever seen. So wrapping things up, this is the sorry, Fractal. So wrapping things up, this is the Fractal Design Define R6 Blackout Edition with tempered glass. That is a mouthful. Another huge thank you to Fractal Design for sending us these cases for review. And now you would have probably noticed that I would have gushed a lot about this case during the review, and that is not because that's not because this case was sent to us by Fractal. I have tried my level best to give an unbiased review, but it's just that this case has done so much right. And if you are somebody who likes building a high-end system, or you are a workstation user and you have high-end components that you want to put in and then run and just make sure that your case looks after the hardware that's in it, this really might be one of the best cases you can buy right now. And that was one of the problems, that we never really could stock this case because the Define series has been around for quite a while. All that might change in the coming few months. So keep a close eye on Redline for more details regarding that. And that for now is our review. Thank you. Come again.